Can you guys hear me now? Can you hear me now? Let me know if you can hear me now. All right, boom.
Right hand man.
Yo. Can you hear me now? Tell me in the chat if you can hear me now. Let me know. Yo, if you're playing it, make sure you just mute it because it'll be. Oh, so you can hear me. Perfect. Perfect. We got it going. Yeah, slide right now. Yo, Travis. Should I put the smoke in the background?
You know, the smoking podcast.
Yeah.
Hey, so Paul, sit on the end. Yep, put Craig in them. Oh shit, I need a fucking.
Yeah. No.
Chad, you're right here. So you're right behind Parker. You're right behind Parker.
No, I want to be there.
You're there? Okay, you're there. All right. You're right next. All right. Yep.
All right.
Hey, look who decided.
Oh, is it straight?
Yeah, that's your boy, dude. He lets you go.
I already posted.
Pharrell's here. We got three extra.
Where is he?
He's coming.
Oh, okay.
He said, I'm coming.
Excellent.
Yeah, we got three
You got it.
three lifers that Trump let out. We have. And then Paul, you're right there.
I'm Obama.
Yeah, I know. You're
And he didn't let you straight out.
you're
the
still
door.
cool, but you're not that cool right now. You know?
He's
If
less
Trump
cool.
lets you out, you're like hot shit right now. You know what I mean?
I am hot shit.
You are hot shit, Paul. I'm sorry.
That ain't got nothing to do with what you got going. He's gonna have, Randy wants us to sign that. All right, we should probably just shut these doors.
Turn that mic on. You see that mic?
And guess where I got this shirt?
This one?
All right, we're starting. Show business. You know what I mean? We can't stop for no one. The show must go on.
Check.
That's nice here. Hell yeah, go team. All right. So you kind of let me know when to start. I'm ready when you are. We're gonna do like 45 minutes. All right. Start with the introduction.
You're straight up.
Good. Are you ready?
Might be necessary.
Check. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Cannabis Day of Justice put on by all ex-incarcerated individuals. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Paul. So the first panel has to do with the pathways to freedom. Well, let me introduce myself. I'm the moderator, Travis Cullen. I spent 8 years in prison for weed. That's what got me here. Read a lot of books. All right. Pathways to freedom. All right. So start off with the introduction. Craig.
Good morning or good afternoon. But my name is Craig Cecil. And in 2001, right before the events of September 11th, I was arrested for conspiring to distribute marijuana. My business repaired trucks for a company that used their trucks to haul marijuana. For that, I was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. I remained in federal prison for the next 19 years until on his last day in office, President Trump commuted my life sentence to time served. In the words of Ivanka Trump, who told me of that grant, she says, "You're being released because we believe that granting you your freedom, you will hit the street and you will do well. You will thrive on the street and outside of prison." I've done that since.
Chad.
I'm Chad Marks. At the age of 24, I was sentenced to 40 years in federal prison for a nonviolent drug crime. While in prison, I ended up becoming a jailhouse lawyer.
Yeah.
I wrote the first compassionate release motion in the country to win for a guy by the name of Conrado Cantu. I had told Cantu, look, I don't know, I think I'm right, but if you want to practice, we'll practice on your case. And we did that. And because of that, thousands and thousands of people have been released from prison, including myself. My 40-year sentence was reduced to 20. And I got out of prison about 4.5 years ago and pretty much been trying to help as many people as I can. We also have a reentry house in my city that we started. We have 20 beds there for guys that are getting out of federal prison that have nowhere to go. So we've been clothing them, feeding them, and giving them a place to live.
Paul.
My name is Paul Free. 1994, I was sentenced to life for marijuana. And I got 2016, President Obama granted my clemency, knocked my life sentence down to 25 years and 4 months. Since I got out, I met a wonderful woman, and we get along really well. We have 17 acres in Ohio. I've got live deer 30 feet from my bedroom window, wild turkeys cruising around. I'm raising some turkeys and some quail and stuff. I'm going to let them just disappear. Rebuild. 1978, they had a big snowstorm there, and it killed all the quail. So
That's awesome.
I'm enjoying life.
Okay, so the reason you guys are up here is because you're all esteemed prison house lawyers. You know the law inside and out. The questions that we're going to be talking about, there's 5 categories. The first one is the clemency and the process, the clemency process and challenges. So each of y'all will have a chance to answer this. What does the clemency process look like, start to finish, and where do most people run into challenges?
The clemency system as it's set up now was actually set up under President Eisenhower in that, for instance, a person imprisoned would look at a grant of a commutation of sentence. That falls under the president's clemency power to change sentences or shorten sentences to free people that are serving sentences, and also the power to pardon somebody, meaning that it removes the conviction from their record. For a prisoner to apply for that, right now there's a system where you basically fill out a specific application to the Office of Pardon Attorney, which is a division of the Department of Justice right now. And there, unfortunately, the very prosecutors that prosecuted us get to discuss whether we deserve a grant of getting our sentence reduced or not. And based on what they determine out of that office, those applications get forwarded to the president. We are trying to change that process right now. I'm living proof that a better system does exist out there. I never applied for clemency. I never applied under President Trump. What happened is a whole lot of activists went and contacted the White House and people within the White House and advocated on my behalf. They fought for me, and they actually convinced President Trump to commute my sentence to time served. If you look at the website for the Office of Pardon Attorney, they're still scratching their heads because I never applied for clemency, but yet it was granted. But that also is proof that the individual activists out there who are trying to help prisoners can make a difference. They did for me. If not for the activists, I'd still be in prison. But that system, I'm hoping we can change the whole clemency system to make it more friendly to the prisoner. That since it's only the president's power to decide whether somebody should receive clemency or not, that whole review process ought to wholly belong to the president and his staff. And that's what we're fighting for, is bring that back into the White House, where the White House does the investigation. The White House determines whether that person should be granted clemency or not. President Trump has taken a big step in that direction already and has appointed the very first clemency czar in Alice Johnson. And she herself was granted clemency for her life sentence for drugs by President Trump, 7 years ago? So she's living proof that it works, and she wants to make it work for others. And I think we're on a path to getting a clemency system that makes more sense. I hope I can rely on that.
Same question, Chad.
You know, I'm going to say this because we're going to keep it real and we're going to keep it raw, right? You know, there are a lot of activists that, you know, obviously help people. Sometimes there's people in this circle where it isn't always about the prisoner. And I just feel like some of the people need to probably, if you're about it, then be about it. You know, I had 40 years at the age of 24, and I had told plenty of people in prison, hey, when I walk out of here, I'm going to be the voice of the voiceless. And I meant that. You know, there are some people that may not agree with me, or some people might not like some of the things that I've done or that I do. But one thing that I do is I make things happen. Under Obama, I was able to get some people released under Obama. One of the guys who I'm going to bring on my YouTube channel, he actually was getting high with a senator's daughter. She overdosed. I told him, I don't think we're going to be able to get you out. Well, I was able to get him out of prison. Jimmy Romans. I'm the person that contacted Alice Johnson. I wrote Jimmy Romans' petition. And I let them know, hey, this is my partner. I've been helping you guys. Help me. This dude needs to get out. And he ended up getting out.
And Jimmy had a life sentence for marijuana?
Jimmy had a life sentence for marijuana. I'd walk the yard with Jimmy every day, and I was like, look, you're going to get out. I'm going to be stuck here. And then it didn't go that way. I got out. And Jimmy didn't get out. And I said, hey, I'm going to walk out here. I'm going to get you out of here, man. He was my partner. He was my best friend in prison. So I was able to do that. Right now, and this isn't about me, it's about the people.
100%.
I was able to help 25 people get clemency under Biden. 8 of them had life sentences. One of them actually had some violence in there, had a murder in that case. But whenever you put a clemency petition together, I think that it should always have pictures of your family plan. Let them know that you have people that love you, care about you. They're going to help you with a successful reentry back into society. And then, yeah, of course, you have to get people's attention. You know, a lot of people don't really realize this about President Trump, right? And I'm not like this Trump defender, but if it wasn't for Trump, I wouldn't be here right now. You know, he passed the First Step Act. He is the president that did the biggest part of criminal justice reform in the country. He did more than Obama. He did more than Biden. And I just think that with Trump, when he appointed Alice, obviously, He gave her clemency. Then he pardoned her. He pardoned Weldon. And he pretty much said, I want you to find people just like you that deserve to get out. And I do believe that there's going to be thousands and thousands of people that get out under this administration. Obviously, Elizabeth Oyer's no longer there. That may be a good thing. Some people might not agree with that, but that may be a good thing because you had them there for 4 years. What did they really do? Tell me what they did. There should have been thousands and thousands and thousands of people that got out. Honestly, and with my story, there's people that deserve to get out more than me. Frank Rogers, I did Frank's clemency petition. Ishmael Lara, I wrote that petition. Frank Rogers is a guy from Syracuse, New York, so people can understand the system. He had some petty felonies in the past. He gets a career offender enhancement, and they bang him for the weed. They give him, what, 200 and almost 20 years, right? I think Frank's, what, 220?
19 years.
So Frank gets this big sentence, right? But if he was sentenced today, Frank would only have 9 years. I did Frank's compassionate release, and this is what it comes down to. It comes down to the judge. And the judge says, you know what? I don't like this guy.
Yeah.
I don't care if he'd only have 9 years now. And Frank's been in prison like 14 years. I walk the yard with this dude every day for 4 or 5 years in Raybrooke. Like, these people deserve
And I'd like to bring up Frank's district, Syracuse, New York. We got Dijon here too. It seems real vicious up there. We got Mickey Woods with a life sentence out of Syracuse. Got Frank, got all that time. He got a life sentence out of Syracuse.
I'm out of Rochester, Western District of New York. I was 24 years old, sentenced to 40 years. Definitely deserve to go to prison. Not always a nice guy. Just being straight up with you, like I said, there's people that deserve to get out more than me. Former gang member, involved in, some real serious stuff in prison, violent stuff in USP Big Sandy, USP Pollock. Doesn't make me a tough guy. I'm only telling you that because these dudes probably deserve to get out more than I deserve to get out. I've been home now 4.5 years, remarried the girl that I was married to, 2 twin boys. I have a really big YouTube channel designed to save kids from life imprisonment, premature death in the streets through our stories and experiences. I own the reentry house. I own a paralegal company.
You're off probation now?
Yeah, my judge called me to his chambers and said, I want to talk to you. Bring your wife with you and bring your kids. And I went there and
Let you off.
who would ever think you'd be in the federal judge's chambers and walking into the federal building, going around that county jail? I always get shaky. Even to this day, I still get like, oh, wow, what? But I went there and he said, look, I'm going to let you off. You did what I asked you to do. You're the first compassionate release that I granted. Keep your word with me. And he let me on compassionate release.
Okay, so Paul, the question was, for you, what does the clemency process look like start to finish? And what are the challenges of this that most people run into?
The only thing I could add to the two guys before me here is that when you put in a clemency petition, the most important thing, in my opinion, is that you have other groups of people writing letters or seeing somebody that knows somebody that can go in and do something. In my own case, Beth Curtis got me out and 21 other guys. She went around and talked to everybody, bugged everybody, saw them again and again and again. I love her. We live together, but well, I'm very lucky,
Heck yeah.
I did 25 years, 4 months, and I've been out 5 years, and every day is just a wonderful thing. So anyway, back to the point here. I'm very fortunate that I was also able to get a lot of people out of prison. Unfortunately, it stopped about 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I was very fortunate for that. Got at least 100 years off from some people. But anyway, that's it.
Okay, so this next question is for Craig and Paul. Having received clemency yourself, what advice do you have for those currently incarcerated pursuing clemency?
The number one thing that the Trump administration, Drew Ivanka, told me of the reason my clemency petition was granted is they felt that based on my petition, I would do well if I was released to the street. And even under Liz Oyer and others that are in the clemency arena, the one thing that they've always stressed is more than arguing that I deserve clemency because my sentence is wrong. That applies to virtually everybody in federal prison. But what is important is if you convince the people reviewing the clemency petition that you have the capability to do well if you hit the street. You have a place to live. You have somewhere to work or, some means of supporting yourself. You have, strength amongst people that are supporting you, friends and family and community. These are the important things that lead to a successful release from prison. I was lucky. I got out of prison blessed by family members and friends that from the get-go made sure I had what I needed, the guidance I needed, and just simple things. I got out of prison after all that time. I had never seen a laptop computer. I had never seen what Facebook is or Google or anything like that. I had never seen a parking meter that you didn't put in a coin and turn the knob. I mean, everything had changed. Grocery stores didn't take cash anymore. Walmart sold food. Everything. So everything changed. And that's where all those friends came in to help me in my ability to get back out on the street, to try to figure out why you don't use a Rand McNally atlas to find your way across town anymore. You use a telephone. Who could imagine that? But that came from everybody in that guidance to help me get on my feet again. And that's why since prison, I'm thriving. I'm actively employed. I'm now a homeowner again. I'm living a life that, that makes the president proud that he released me, that I'm better off on the street than being that guy that the taxpayers keep paying to keep in prison.
I totally agree. So what advice do you have for prisoners that are inside pursuing clemency right now, Paul?
Well, don't take the most expensive person around. And just get organizations, have somebody go to every organization you can think of. There's lists of them. Religious organizations, any kind of work, get them to write a letter, and a lot of them do. I had all sorts of people that I never knew that went to bat for me and recommended I get out. Got out, here I am.
Well, we're glad you're out.
How about when first time you saw those new billboards that all light up and stuff?
All right, this next question's for Chad, starting with Chad. Chad, since you've been home, you've had a paralegal business. You've helped many people navigate the First Step Back. What parts of the law have had the greatest impact so far? And are there ways the First Step Back still falls short, especially for nonviolent cannabis prisoners?
So, let me just touch on this as far as the First Step Back goes, right? Obviously the biggest criminal justice reform package that we've ever had. And I'm going to give you some examples outside of maybe the cannabis stuff. I mean, guys like Frank, obviously. Under 21 U.S.C. 851, if you had a prior drug felony, your mandatory minimum was 20 years. If you had 2 priors, then your mandatory minimum was life. And, I had this guy named Billy Brown out of Charlotte, North Carolina. I was in USP Coleman with Billy. And Billy got caught with, I think, 7 dime bags of crack, right? Not the best family upbringing, selling crack when he's 17 years old. 20 years old, he gets caught with an 8-ball, 3.5 grams of crack. And then he gets involved in this 50-gram crack cocaine conspiracy. And the lawyer tells him, public defender, right? But not all public defenders are bad. I've worked with some really good ones, especially in New York. Public defender says, look, Billy, you got to cop out. Billy's mandatory minimum is life. Why would Billy plead guilty? Billy pleads guilty to a life sentence at 24 years old. I ended up helping him. He ends up getting clemency under Obama, right? But the First Step Back changed that. They said, hey, look, this is wrong. 924C offenders. I was 24 years old, sentenced to 40 years at 24.
Parker Coleman, 924C.
But we'll get into that, right? And hopefully someone gets some attention on Parker and Parker gets out of jail. 924C, first gun, and some people are like, oh, you're a gun offender. First gun's 5 years, second gun's 25 years, next one's 25, and they just start stacking them on, right? So you have young guys like Jamel Azeli. He's write articles about him in Criminal Legal News all the time. He does some robberies, right? He ends up with 155 years. Can't get out of jail. No one has the authority. The judge says, hey, I want to let this guy out. And the prosecutor says, no, we're not letting him out. We're not going to just let him die in prison. Eventually, he gets out. Why? Because of the First Step Back, right? They reduced the second 25-year sentence down to 5. So now they can still stack them, but it's 5, 5, 5, 5. But under the First Step Back and compassionate release, what happens? It now gives the judge the authority to say, you know what? I'm the judge. I have the power. I think that you're rehabilitated, and I want to give you a shot. That was the same situation with me. I was sentenced to 40 years, 5 for the, just so you guys know, I got 5 years for a 12 gauge shotgun that was in a house. You know, it's horrible, right? I was a crack dealer, straight up. 5 years for a 12 gauge shotgun, 25 years for a 22 rifle, and 10 years for the crack. The First Step Act didn't make this retroactive. Who does it affect? Let's just keep it real. Disproportionately affects African Americans, right? The gun charges with the crack destroys lives. These guys are never getting out. These kids are growing up without a father figure in the house. And there's plenty of people, you know, that deserve to get out. Like I said, Parker Coleman deserved to get out of prison. So it changes that. And now it gives the judges the authority to say, hey, look, I think you're rehabilitated. I'm going to do this. But they didn't want to make it retroactive. If it's wrong for the guys that are coming in, then it has to always be wrong.
So that's what needs to be fixed.
100%.
Retroactive.
Needs to be made retroactive, especially under this administration, right? You know, they want to save money. You're over incarcerating people that are rehabilitated. Parker Coleman, rehabilitated. Frank Rogers, rehabilitated. These are dudes that are probably going to get out of prison and not reoffend. And here's an example. Thank God I'm out here. I've been out here almost 5 years. I had 3 separate hearings on my compassionate release. I mean, the prosecutors were vicious. And I had John Gleason represent me, former federal judge, the guy that did the Holloway case. He came with it. I seen what real lawyers were when they came from New York City. These were real lawyers. He has the First Step Back program with the 924C stacking. But these prosecutors fought me. They had SIS come testify on me. He's a gang member. They made me take all my clothes off and take pictures of all my tattoos. And they painted this narrative. Like, this guy's a gang member. This dude was a shot caller in prison. He doesn't deserve to get out of prison. And my judge responds with a 50-page decision and says, the prosecution has lied. They worked with SIS at the prison to lie. But the moral of the story is that people do get out of prison, especially dudes that done a lot of time. Those are the dudes that get out of prison, and I really believe change their lives.
I did too.
4.5 years. Like I said, I'm married, 2 little twin boys. It hasn't all been a easy path in prison infection. So when I got out, I'm jumpy, I'm nervous. I'm not gonna lie to you. I slept with a knife in my room probably for 15 months. But you know what? If I can do it, and I was that dude that they didn't want, gang member, these dudes can do it.
Yeah.
Parker Coleman can get out and do it. Frank Rogers can do it.
100%. What do you think should be changed on the First Step Act? And how can people navigate it? And what's the greatest impact of the First Step Act?
The greatest impact of the First Step Act, I think, is the most obvious in the prison population. At the end of the Obama administration, there was 219,000 federal prisoners. By the end of the Trump administration, there was 153,000 federal prisoners. Now, why?
Wow.
Why? Now, okay, granted, part of that is COVID slowed down the number of arrests, but that's only a small part of the equation. The First Step Act made it so that there was more early release credits available to people for doing programming in prison. That obviously needs to be expanded. Right now, it only applies to a smaller percentage of federal prisoners. It should apply to every federal prisoner, whether they committed a gun offense, a violent crime, a drug offense, or sadly, the people that all of us former prisoners don't want to defend, the sex offenders. But sadly, the First Step Act needs to be expanded to grant incentives to everybody in prison to better themselves in exchange for early release. Because if they are working to better themselves in prison, I think we can all believe they'll better themselves once they're out of prison.
So you're referring to like doing like classes?
Correct. As you know, that there's classes people can take.
Yep.
And it makes their release earlier. It's not actually good time in words, but in its functional application, it actually is. It gets them out of prison earlier. But that needs to be expanded, I think, to everybody. And also, some of the benefits that people can receive under compassionate relief and others, that ought to be applied to everybody. New law people, old law people,
Yeah.
everybody that's in prison on every charge that ends you up in federal prison.
Since you touched on the old law, will you expand with the people under old law not qualifying? Or
Correct. As Chad talked about, one of the biggest improvements in the First Step Act is it gave judges back the power to look at a person's sentence and determine if their sentence is right or not. That power was taken away back in the early 80s under the Sentencing Reform Act back then, where judges were locked into guidelines and mandatory minimums and things of that sort. Under the new compassionate release program, a prisoner can go right to their judge and ask that judge to look at their sentence and see if their sentence is right. And if the judge doesn't think it's right, they can grant them relief. That is not available to somebody that committed their crime before November of 1987. And those are probably the most reformed people there is, people that have been in prison since then.
40 years almost.
Right, and figure people of those ages are not likely to get out of prison and commit more crimes.
Let me stop you for a second, right? What he's saying is 100% correct. There is one person that did get out that was under the old law on compassionate release. That was Guy Fisher. I don't know if you know.
I've heard that. What was Guy's?
He was the first African American to ever own the Apollo Theater, Manhattan. Nicky Barnes, American Gangster. Guy Fisher is the guy that they all told on, and Guy Fisher ended up with a life sentence. I helped Guy out. Very, very close with Guy. The public defender's office filed it, but
He's home?
He got out, but he was under the old law. And some people are like, oh, well, you know, he tricked them. He got in early. And then you have other guys in Illinois and stuff like that. Like, nope, you're under the old law. Can't let you out of jail. Sorry. And like he said, these are guys that are 65, 70. These are dudes that deserve to get out. They're not committing no more crimes. They've been in prison 30, 40 years. But your tax dollars are paying to over incarcerate them. You know, for, you know, Trump, if you're watching, or Alice, you know, you can fix that because those guys can't get out. But you can definitely do it through clemency.
Anything to add to that, Paul? No. All right. So the next question is, what are some of the key legal strategies or loopholes that attorneys and jailhouse lawyers should know when working on compassionate release in clemency cases? Start with you, Chad. Come over to Craig.
I don't want to say like there's loopholes or tricking them, right? It's not about tricking them. And I'll be the first one to tell you, a lot of these lawyers, a lot of these judges, hope this don't get me in trouble, but they're not the smartest people, right? You might think they are because they went to Harvard. They got it all figured out.
They look smart in the
You
courtroom.
even had the attorney general, you know, at one time was like, oh, he was talking to Dick Durbin. He said, oh, well, we did that. We took 2 points off. Well, you were the attorney general. What do you mean you don't know that happened? Are you out of your mind? Like, you're the attorney general. In every compassionate release motion that I do, and I sat on a panel with Judge Prescott. I learned a lot from Judge Prescott in New York. She likes to see pictures. I want to see pictures of the family. I want to see where you're going home to. Are these people going to help you? And I'm going to tell you right now, when they look at those pictures, they look the same. Are they presentable people? Like I've done compassionate release motions and dudes will say, I say, hey, I need 10, 15 pictures. And I'm getting pictures where they're like that's not going to work. You know, pictures before your incarceration, you got a beer in your hand. Like, we're not sending that to the judge. That's not going in the photo collage of your reentry plan. But I think, you know, you stick to the law, you stick to the facts, you bang away on the rehabilitation. This is what I've done since I've been in prison. No, you know, obviously 18 U.S.C. 3553A, you know, they're supposed to give you a punishment that's sufficient, but not greater than necessary to achieve the goals of sentencing. So bang away on the rehabilitation. Like, look, I've turned my life around. I'm no longer a threat to public safety. How do you show that? You know, we can go through the programs. I have, you know, stable housing, because I think judges do worry about if you get out and you don't have nowhere to go, what are you going to do? You'll be back, you know, selling drugs. You're going to do whatever it is to survive. And that's just keeping it real. So, you know, employment letters are important. And I learned a lot of this, like I said, from Judge Prescott when I sat on that panel with Sean Hopwood and some people that you probably know. And that's what you do. You really show, you know, and some people think, like, oh, you got to bang away on the case law. The judge knows the law. The judge don't know the facts about you. Paint this picture. And I always put a letter to the judge. Put a very, very, and I tell them, just a compelling letter, man, heartfelt. Tell them how you really feel. I got a partner right now, man, former Aryan Brotherhood gang member, going in front of the judge he gets lucky, he's going to get resentenced. He's on the phone. Man, he came back with a PSI. They want to give me more time than I started with. He started crying. But if you see this dude on Facebook, He's that dude with all the tattoos and, he's on that gangster stuff, but he was crying on the phone. And he's posting pictures on Facebook, like still involved in this gang nonsense. And man, you really want to get out of jail? So focus on the rehabilitation and just be real about it. I mean, that's what I would say.
Same question to you. What's the key strategies on pursuing clemency right now? And what should the incarcerated individuals focus on, and what should their lawyers focus on?
Again, clemency and the compassionate release is convince the arbiter that you're going to do well if released. You are the person that's not going to commit a crime again. You're a person who has the means to do well if you are released to the street. If your plan to go to the street is I'm going to live with my sister in the projects for a while and I'm going to hook up with the homeboys and get my life back together, they're going to leave you in prison. But if your plan is I'm going to go live with my mom and I have a job offer right over here, and I've got the support from the church, I have the support from my friends in the area, I'm going to be able to get a car from my buddy, so-and-so. I'm going to thrive once I hit the street. I'll live with mom until I'm on my feet to get my own home. Actually have a plan so that when you hit the street, you are going to thrive. You're not just going to be out of prison. You're going to thrive. You're going to be the person that they want to have in their neighborhood, in their community.
Anything to add to that?
No, I'm just glad these gentlemen are still into it.
Heck yeah. I like it. Well, I'm going to wake you.
Tired.
I'm going to wake you up with this one. So, in your guys' opinion, what were the key failures of the Biden administration with clemency and rescheduling cannabis? I was disappointed nothing got done. I remember at the debate with Cory Booker, Biden promised he was going to let all the cannabis prisoners released. Now we're into a Trump term. None of the cannabis prisoners got released for cannabis crimes. So let's just go over the failures of the Biden administration. And did they give you guys hope that they were going to let people out? Is people that were talking to the administration? Start with Craig.
Well, of course, the Biden administration, like any other administration, survives off of politics. Biden knew what to say to really make us really encouraged by that administration. He may even cause some of us to vote for him. But sadly, it wasn't realized. He got into office and found that it didn't fit his politics any longer. Then he really got pushed and made that big announcement, almost 3 years ago, that he's going to grant pardons to everybody with a simple possession conviction.
Marijuana.
Of marijuana only. And we all know what happened with that. Did anybody get out of prison? Is anybody able to go for a job now and say, I no longer have a marijuana conviction? No, those convictions are still standing. Yes, they have a letter from the president saying that, yes, I could have pardoned all the people with that conviction, but there's nothing specific to the individual offender saying they no longer have this conviction. So that, again, was politics right before the election. It came out in October for the November midterm election. That was a politically motivated endeavor by the president that really turned out to be meaningless. We also know there was a lot of talk about moving marijuana to Schedule 3, which, yes, is an improvement if they even did it. But what there was never talk of is moving it out of Section 841. Make it so that 1,000 kilos or more wasn't 10 years to life. That never came up. Why didn't anybody talk about that? Even if they did change it to Schedule 3, our sentences would have still remained the same. It's still 10 years to life for 1,000 kilos or more. So that's a reason that failed. The people that would be the movers and shakers to move it to Schedule 3 never saw a reason to. What would it help? Who would it help? What would change? Maybe some schools could do a little bit more research on it. But what would really change as far as the criminal law? So yes, sadly, the Biden administration garnered a lot of votes out of a lot of promises, But sadly, we've been let down by another politician. That when the politics actually hit the fan, that's where it stayed.
We've been here many years.
Give him the mic.
We've been here about 3 or 4 years in a row about this time. And I remember last year, one of the government officials came out and said, "Yay, 420, yeah, we're gonna get him out and legalize it, yeah." And 5 years ago, I came here. When I first got out, I bought a little car, and I was able to have an apartment for a month, and I got a computer and a printer and all that. And I printed up this little brochure to give out, 1 page, double-sided, real pretty for me. I'm tech stupid, but I printed it up and I got out in Detroit, Michigan, and I drove here and I went through at least half of the senators' offices and the House. And I'd walk in and I had, see, it's kind of a poster like that. But I walked in and the staffers jump up and go, "Oh, hi, come on in. Hey, Bill, we got a voter out here." And they said, "Well, welcome, come on." And I went to my senator's office first and did that. And I thought, wow, I bet you I could go to the next one. And the next one was from New Mexico. And I walked in there and, "Hi, come on in." I went in and I gave him the brochure and everything. They said, "Would you like some Halloween candy?" "No, thanks." And this guy was from New Mexico. So when I first walked in and saw everybody, I said, I just recently drove through Albuquerque, and which was kind of true about 20, 30 years earlier. Anyway, got the same thing. "Yeah, you'd be surprised how many phone calls we get every day on this issue. We're going to help legalize marijuana. We're going to try and get these people out." And I walked out going, "Well, it'd be nice." That was 5 years ago.
You've done nothing.
Yeah.
Failures of the Biden administration, Chad.
So when you talk about simple possession, right? I mean, everybody has someone that's in jail, right? How many people are in federal prison for simple possession of marijuana? None. We're going to pardon everybody in federal prison for simple possession. This is what Biden told the people, right? But Parker's not in jail for simple possession. Frank Rogers isn't. Ishmael isn't. It's all a lie. What are their failures? You know what their failures are. You don't need me to tell you, but I'll tell you anyway. Thousands and thousands of people should have got clemency under Biden, right? They wanted people to believe that the public's not going to go nuts if you release marijuana offenders, right? Nonviolent drug offenders, tax dollars are paying to incarcerate these people. Why are they still in prison? No violence. It should have been a blanket pardon. Everybody was ready, right? Biden's last day, here it goes. It's going to happen. I was fortunate to get some dudes out that is crazy. And Frank went nuts over this because I've done some stuff for Frank, had some stuff delivered to DC for Frank. I got dudes out I got this dude out that killed his wife in his case. I did his clemency petition at the same time I did Frank's. I'm glad this dude got out. He's got 30 years in, but Frank probably should have got out before Bloomer did. That's their failure. There's guys where there's a guy from Connecticut. I believe in second chances 100%. This dude executed a woman and her 2 kids because they were going to be a witness. He got clemency. Parker didn't. Frank Rogers didn't.
No violence on Parker.
This is a case out of Connecticut. You can Google it. This guy killed 2 kids and a woman because the woman was going to testify at his brother's trial. He got clemency under Biden. These marijuana offenders didn't. So that's their biggest failure. And there's other things that piss me off, but where some people Harry O got out of prison, but Michelle West was still sitting in prison. I mean, she got out now, but sometimes, so all the people know, like, we're not. I'm not here for money, and I'm not here to put up a post and say I was at the White House or I was with this dude or I was with that dude. I really do care about people. There's a lot of people in this circle that don't necessarily care about people.
You're
right?
good, Paul.
And as far as politics go, it should be people over politics. Michelle West should have got out of prison way before Harry O got out of prison. I'm glad he got out. Maybe they all should have got out at the same time.
Okay. So the last question, we'll wrap up with this. I know we all have great hope with the appointment of the pardon czar. Alice Marie Johnson. She was a former incarcerated individual like ourselves. What criteria do you think the administration should put forward as far as letting people out on clemency? And what are you hoping to see out of this new administration as far as actual releases? And is there any thoughts on what we can expect?
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay, so Alice Johnson's got the seat, right? Maybe she'll see this. Everybody's like, hey, I got the number. Hey, call Alice. I've spoken to Alice before when Alice got out of prison. The biggest thing is this, Alice Johnson, don't forget where you were at. Don't forget what it's like to have a life sentence. Yeah, you're in that position now. You got a couple dollars. You got all these people around you. You're doing big things. But don't forget about the people. Don't forget about what it was like to go to bed hungry at night. Because I'm sure she went to bed hungry sometimes.
How much time did she do?
What, 20 years? What else? 20?
Oh, she hasn't forgot.
Yeah.
She hasn't forgot.
Well, hopefully she has. Hopefully she has.
She hasn't.
Well, we're about to find out.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people want to, cater to these people, but I don't do that. Because I got a couple down.
We're all very hopeful. I didn't see a Biden appoint anybody that was incarcerated.
No, of course not. And look, I'm a Trump supporter, right? Why am I a Trump supporter? I don't like everything that he says, everything that he does, but I wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the First Step Act.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in life if it wasn't for compassionate release. Many of my friends wouldn't be out of prison. So when he appointed her as the pardon czar, of course I'm happy. Former prisoner, don't forget. If you want the real answers, I'm here to give them to you.
Yeah.
I'm here to give them to you.
What
You don't want to piss no one off, right?
Well,
I think
I think she hasn't even settled into the office. And I think that I'm super excited. What do you?
I agree. I think she's emblematic of this administration taking a new approach to clemency, as they did in my case and not running it through the Department of Justice in his first term. But in the second term under this administration, I think I'm hopeful that we're going to see changes in how clemency is considered by the executive branch of our government. I'm hoping that they will look at, is this person going to be the person that Americans want in their community? Is this the person that would thrive more out of prison than in prison? And I think that that's what Alice may be emblematic of, is this administration saying we're going to change how we do look at clemency and whether to grant it or not to grant it. And that's where my hopes are. And yes, we don't know, is she going to get caught up in the system of a lot of money, a lot of fame, and a lot of fancy hotels and trips and all that? Or is she going to help lead the fight to a new regime of using presidential power to make wrongful sentences right? That's our hope. So right now, there's no guarantees. There's no, everybody's talking about what they heard, somewhere, but there's no guarantees right now. But we need to be loud enough to make sure that these people, including Alice, know we're watching what they're doing, and especially what they may not be doing. So let's make sure that they hear us and that we can make a difference from here.
Thanks, Craig, for keeping it real. Appreciate that. Because that's what it is.
Yeah, you're right. People are in prison. We need them out. Anything closing, Paul?
No, I'm with y'all. Let's get them out. It's about time.
Any closing, Chad?
Man,
Sign. Oh, we want you guys to sign the letter asking Trump to release these guys behind us.
I just think, in my closing is pretty much, I do believe, sometimes there's, this stuff about Trump, but I do believe obviously that he's done a bunch of big things. Like I said, I wouldn't be
Ross Albright, he let out a few people.
Well, I mean, he's letting out Silk Road, but he's been doing that with a lot of people that people don't even realize. There was clemencies like 2 weeks ago. He is doing some stuff, right? And with Alice there and with what he said, he says, hey, look, find me some people that are just like you that deserve to get out. I mean, there's thousands of them.
Oh, yeah.
Do I believe it's going to happen? I do. You're more closely connected with her. They got a little bit mad at me when I was harping on them about getting my boy out. I mean, it kind of ruined my relationship with them, but it don't matter because my boy got out of jail. So it is what it is. I don't bullshit. I give it to you how it is.
It's an intense feeling advocating for people in prison. That's for sure. Any closing remarks?
No, just again, that theme of hope.
Yeah.
I hope that we can be the push behind making that change happen. Because President Trump went out on a limb, releasing 11 people sentenced to life for marijuana on his last half day in office. He took a gamble on us. There's 3 of us of that 11 here today. All of us gainfully employed. All of us getting along with our neighbors and our neighborhoods that are happy to have us. All of us doing well. We're living proof that this works. And now, hopefully, we're giving that hope to the administration that if it worked for us, that this administration can make it work for many thousands of more that really should have some relief and are languishing in our prisons for no reason.
Trump already let some people out last time.
Hope he does it again. All right, thanks, guys.
He does it again.
Next panel will be in 15 minutes.
You want to get people out of jail? Just listen.
I do. Let's keep going.
Well,
Is it a real 15 minutes, Travis, or 10 minutes last?
That's how they're. $200,000. So I got.
So what, they do one more set?
Where were you at? You better watch the
we'll be back in 15 minutes. Stay tuned.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. I feel like there's so many people that I would really love to hang out with all the time. If, like, our
You like it?
Yeah, a lot of people were in there. Someone had
Well, then, yeah.
That's all we're talking about. Say, you guys are talking about me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't even talk to much. I mean, you know, everybody. You know what I'm saying? That's looking out there direct now. I did, you know what I'm saying? So they know I didn't. You know what I'm saying? She's already started. You know walking around with my. So you know what I mean?
I feel like that's definitely good. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like there was like one cycle, two cycle.
It's about the impact of Everything's slow. Right? Here you go.
Oh, yeah.
Somehow he has that brotherhood in that person, like he's the shot caller. I'm gonna take the neighbor, I'll stop the house for like a July. Yeah. But the stuff that I talk about, people.
Oh, yeah.
So, And then they like, you gotta take them over stage. Be out of the house, you gotta have a scrub. They just don't want to get the contract. So hold me back. And we'll sit over here.
Yes.
Yeah. It's out. You ever see that? I've heard all about it. I was a little shaky too. It's good.
Yeah, it's like 9.5 hours. I mean, almost. Yeah.
They don't got it. It's much to be.
But for different cities.
And listen to this.
No. Right as longer changing. So like among the very small, I think it was.
What's going on, everybody? The next one starts in 2 minutes, so stay tuned.
No.
He talks like that. He said, you know what he did to me. So I just like that. I'm sorry. My bad. He was drinking.
That's why. Watch it. Yeah, you got lots of
Yeah, it means like you, get people watching us. You're very.
She's already done next slide. Also, I was told earlier,
You're.
Right. Thankfully, we're both out here.
Right.
Oh, when I went to Italy, they don't really eat a lot of older Mustang. He had the vegetables. She, that's what they got. Like, oh, I feel vegan if I'm. I'll just. He's gonna check. We've actually known each other in the Russians. Not just on from. We don't always just
You see things that are. Pricey that- So you're. Yeah, but you are.
I can't, what's your first name? John, Tony, I think there's so much memory space on it. John? That's the first part. Come on, go. Let's go. Loud screaming. Still going.
I should put this up.
Hell yeah. I got you.
Yes, after
They start.
So you know what, how you end it? You know how you end it too? I think this wraps it up. Like before we go, I love it to President Trump. I that when you get President Trump,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, content. I did this here for you. That way you can hand it over. You can sign it out at the end or before. I go.
2-minute warning. 2-minute warning.
Up here, me, Craig.
No, Evelyn.
Yeah.
Wherever you can go over there. Natalia, come next to me. Yeah. Got this up a little bit for you.
Can I move the table for you?
Live stream. Oh, it's your first one? Oh my God, I have authentic. First one.
Travis, you gotta do those. So get back so we take pictures of your first guest.
All right.
Thank you. That's very hard last panel.
Okay. All right. 2-minute warning. Hell yeah, go team. She doing, she hot tag. All right, thank you, everyone. This is the 2:00 panel, collateral damage. And every time we do this, I'd like to have you guys introduce yourself, and we'll start with Natalia Wade.
Hi, I'm Natalia Wade. I did 87 months in the federal prison
For cannabis.
for cannabis.
That's the cool part.
My name's Anthony DeJohn. I was sentenced to a life sentence out of Syracuse, New York.
Well, can we expand a little bit on that? You got a life sentence for cannabis and
Did all my time in a penitentiary setting, which is rough time, if anybody doesn't know.
on the Randy.
Hey, my name's Randy Lanier. Did 27 years of a life sentence. Got out 10 years ago, and I'm just blessed to be here. Thank you.
And my name is Evelyn LaChapelle. I was sentenced to 87 months in prison as a first-time nonviolent cannabis offender. And since I've launched Ladies Loving and Living and The Wee Lady.
Awesome. All right. So on this panel, we're going to reflect on the damage the incarceration caused you on your life. This panel highlights the human cost of cannabis prohibition and the healing power of second chances. This is the opening reflection. You've each lived through the injustice of cannabis incarceration. Can you share what the moment of your release felt like and how it impacted your family? I'd like to start with you.
I didn't believe my release when it happened. We were locked down for COVID. I was in USP Florence, and they came to the door and told me I was being released, and I didn't believe it. And I still didn't believe it when they put me in the van until they dropped me off in Pueblo, Colorado. There was no pay phones. It was weird to me after doing all that time. I couldn't believe that I got that kind of time for a plan. You know, when I went to jail, they had flip phones. I got out and seen these phones and had no idea how to use them. Never seen one in my life. And it was amazing to me to be free. It really was. And it's amazing that I was called to come and help try to free these gentlemen out of prison that are still in there that have no business being in there when it's legal on the state side. in my eyes. I mean, the law makes no sense to me. How can it be legal on the state side, but it's not on the federal side? It's beyond me. It just blows my mind away that us as taxpayers is paying for people to sit in jail for something that's legal. It's impacting my life, my family's life. It's just, it's hard to explain, to go through it.
You see the stores selling it and you know people are locked up.
I had correction officers laughing at me in USP Florence, telling me they could walk in the store and buy grocery cartfuls. What are you doing in prison? And I was over there for, I think, 4.5, 5 years. How do you think that felt? You know, they just were like, what are you doing?
So since we started the story, so just to be clear, President Trump let you out. You didn't have appeal.
Nope. Got full clemency from President Trump with 10 years of paper when I got out, which I think is wrong too. I'm glad I'm out, by all means, but I think I've paid my debt to society.
How long you been home now?
Since 21, January 21.
You had a life sentence. So when you say the counselor knocked on your door, like you never thought you were getting out, and then somebody knocked on your door one day?
Yeah, we were locked down for 6 months, and there was 5 of them that came to the door. They knocked on the door and started to key the door, and I told them, hey, hold up, you know, and next thing you know, they're keying the door, telling me, hey, you're being released in 1 hour. You got immediate release, and I didn't believe it. I thought they were playing games. And because I've seen that happen to people. Next thing you know, they're going to transfer. They don't want to tell you. And my counselor came back in an hour and opened the door and said, hey, are you ready? I'm like, yeah, I'm not taking none of this stuff with me other than my family picture. Absolutely, I'm ready. And we got down to booking, and, you know, they don't let your family send no clothes or nothing. And the next thing you know, we got in a van. It's a Mexican guy drove me. I wasn't in handcuffs or nothing, and it didn't hit.
All this happened one day. You knock on the door, and you're outside from a life sentence.
Yep. Unbelievable. And I rode for 3 days straight on the bus back to Syracuse, New York.
Did you have a cell phone? Where you?
Yeah. I asked the security guard in Pueblo to make a phone call to a cab driver, and he came, and I said, can you take me to Walmart? And the guy said, sure. And I just told him to sit tight. I got to go inside, grab a phone, and I'll take care of you, man. I got to hit an ATM. Like I said, I got the phone, I got a card, and I had no idea how to load it. I'm fumbling away with it. And the lady at the cash register, I just basically said, hey, can you help me? I need to call my mom.
Yes.
Randy, the moment you were released.
The moment I was released, my son, my daughter, my wife picked me up. USP Coleman. It'd been 27 years. So I had known 30 days before my release that I was getting released. I'm a former race car driver. I've driven for Ferrari in Europe, Porsche here in the United States, won an international championship, but I'm a first-time cannabis offender. I received a life sentence without parole, natural death. Penitentiary, went through many of them. And on my release, it was quite complex concerning some properties that the U.S. Marshals had seized. And we find out 19 years, 6 months into my bit that they had kept the property, a casino, and sold it 3 years after they had managed it. They didn't vet the buyer. The U.S. Marshal Service sold it to an organized crime family. And it ended up keeping 6% of interest in the casino for 9 years. And I found that out 19 years, 6 months into my bit. Challenged it. Took me 7 years to go through the court system. And throughout that time, President Obama had issued a directive to the Justice Department to thin out the prison systems. And he was looking at nonviolent, long-lengthy prisoners. And I fell into that category. So it was like a perfect storm for me. And I fell into that mixture of nonviolent, long-lengthy prisoners. And then with the lawsuit that's going on with the U.S. Marshal Service, the U.S. Justice Department, through the U.S. Attorney's Office, contacted my attorney and asked him if we would drop the lawsuit that we were working on, that would be time served. So I had a hearing on my phone in my counselor's office, and he rules in my favor. The U.S. Justice Department was on board with my length of sentence, time served. Of course, the $157 million that they made illegally, we dropped everything, and I walked out the door a free man. And now it's so ironic because a couple of years ago, the state of New Jersey awarded me a cultivation license, a very large cultivation license, 75,000 square feet of canopy. It's about 110,000 pounds of weed a year I can cultivate. Along with that, they gave me a manufacturing license. So now I have a cultivation annual license. I'm about 6 to 8 months away from having product in the stores, and a manufacturing license, and that's about 90 to 120 days away. So it's amazing how things work out, and it's like a full circle for me. So now I'm back being able to help the cannabis business through Freedom Grow. We are a nonprofit organization. I ask you to please check it out, freedomgrow.org. We help cannabis prisoners. And I just want to say that I'm blessed to be here. And all of these prisoners that you see behind me that are on that website and stuff, they all need and deserve to be with their families. They shouldn't be in prison to begin with. It's a plant, and it's a plant that heals. And so that's the story.
Evelyn, the moment you got out.
The moment I got out, I don't think I've shared this story, but
Thank you if you're going to.
I'm going to, because if the Secretary of Phoenix Prison, Women's Prison Camp is watching this, I want to know how you felt when I was released. And so part of the release planning is transportation. And at the 2 days before, they denied my family the opportunity to pick me up because they said the ride was too long and they were putting me on a bus. The fuck? Sorry, excuse my language, but I'm like, I'm not getting on a bus. I'm a single female. I'm not taking the bus from Arizona. And they said, well, if you can get a plane ticket in the next hour, we'll allow the opportunity and your own transportation from the prison to the airport. Call my sister, not a problem. So when I released and it's time for me to walk through the security's office, my sister hired a driver that had to stand in the office with my name on it. So you know how you see him at the airport and he's got this digital sign that says La Chapelle, and there's no one in the office, just her. She's just sitting at her desk, and there's this man with this big sign that says La Chapelle, and I wanted to look at her and say, see, because I don't play games, right? You thought you were putting me on the bus, and I have a private driver. So that was my get out of jail moment. And I always wondered what she thought about. But similar to, all of our experiences of walking outside and just not having a clue of what to do, getting to the airport without a phone, with a debit card that I don't know how to work. My mom thought it was funny to send me a My Little Pony backpack because I requested to me. So it was just going through the motions, I think. I think it was a lot of going just through the motions. We all think about what we're going to eat, who we're going to see, the first thing I want to do. And the truth was my nerves were so bad that I couldn't eat for 2 weeks. I could only stomach key lime pie for 2 weeks. And then as a female being released to a halfway house, which is ridiculous because I had a strong family support, but because they are pipelining you through the system and the money has to travel through the system, I'm in a halfway house. There's maybe 5 females to about 40 men who've been in prison, who've been without females, without women. And I'm here to navigate this space. And there was a moment where a man is because okay, this is my tactic, right? You find one friend and then you're safe. And so I had found that one guy friend and we're going to hang out and I'm going to be safe. But it turns out he's high out of his mind and I'm in the shower and he's banging down to kick in the door to get to me. And this is 2 weeks home, right? And so the release, joyous as it was, I was walking out of prison completely optimistic. I've got a degree. This reentry is not going to affect me. I'm coming home, family, mom, daughter, life is set up. And the truth was there's predators in the halfway house. No one really wants to give you a second chance. You can't even stomach your food. And your daughter, who is used to having a mom that is vending machines, card games, chess, and all the other. Now she has a mom that's worried about eat your vegetables, do your homework, and it's bedtime. Like, coming home wasn't the rainbows that we all imagined it would be in the first. It takes some adjusting. But nonetheless, the flex for the security made me excited.
You remember the first moment you got out, Natalia, if you want to share that with us?
Yes. But first, like, life sentence for weed is crazy. And like,
Yeah.
and I've never met you before, and this is my first time meeting you, and I'm just blown away. But I'm happy to see you.
Oh, I know.
And I'm happy that you're
Thank
here.
you.
Yeah.
The first time, well, it was kind of like, I have to say I was kind of nonchalant, only because the first time I was supposed to go home, they tricked me. I did the program, the RDAP program, and I did the whole program all the way through, graduated and everything. 2 weeks before I was supposed to go home, they told me I couldn't go home, that I had to do my whole sentence. So I didn't get the year off. I couldn't get halfway house. I couldn't even get home confinement
Terrible.
because of my medical condition. I was diagnosed with lupus inside. I ended up having a heart attack. And the lupus had scarred my lungs, so I also have COPD. I used oxygen, all that. So because of my health condition, they pulled that time away from me. They said I'm not eligible for halfway house. And if I get in trouble, so they already had in their mind that I'm gonna get in trouble.
Was this your first time being in prison?
Yes.
For marijuana?
Yes.
Wow.
That if I got in trouble, the sheriffs wouldn't come and get me. And I also wouldn't be able to go to a halfway house because they wouldn't take care of me. So therefore, I had to do an extra 12 months. So here I am getting ready. I'm going home. Come in the office. You're not going home. I got to stay another 12 months.
Did you have any write-ups when you were in prison?
Never. It was so bad to where they didn't even know who I was because I did nothing. They were like, who are you? Like, we've never heard of you. We've never seen you. I'm like, well, what are you supposed to see? Like, I'm already in prison. I'm not here to act up. You know what I mean? So when I finally, got home, my nerves were shot. Like, excuse me, but like I vomited the whole way. Like I couldn't, like, I was just so nervous. And they put me on a plane by myself. Then I flew all the way home to San Francisco. And the guy was talking about, flashing lights and billboards. The first billboard I see in the car is that they're selling weed and they're delivering it to your house.
How many years did you just get done doing?
Like 7.
7 years?
7 and some change. Yeah. It was like a slap in the face to me. I said, do you guys see that? They're like, oh yeah, that's normal. I said, what do you mean that's normal? I was just in prison for that. I said, this is what they're doing now? I said, I just don't understand. And that pissed me off because that was the first sign I seen in the billboard, getting in the car on the way home.
And what year was this?
This was 2019.
So you haven't been in trouble since then?
No. Great.
I'm just letting the people know. I know that. I knew the answer before I asked it.
There's no way. Like, I really considered going to be a nun.
Hell
like,
yeah.
I was so scared and I was so traumatized by the whole experience that I had. I didn't want to do anything. You couldn't get me to jaywalk. I'm not doing nothing.
It was hard to get you up here.
Yeah. It was. But like getting home, talking about eating, I ate everything that I missed.
What was
I'm
your
not
first
gonna
meal?
lie to you.
What was your first meal?
So I'm a big cheeseburger person. So I had everybody meet me at my favorite cheeseburger spot.
Love it. So you guys are co-defendants, right?
Yes.
Did you get out at the same time, or you
No.
got out first?
Which is the worst part.
Yeah.
That we both received 87 months in prison, period. Our sentence should have been the same. We received it. We went to trial together.
And you were in prison together, right?
We were in prison together.
That's a real best friend.
Until they separated us once she got sick, and they realized that I was making the phone calls because they were going to let her perish until I started calling home. And then they separated us. But we got the exact same amount of time, and I got home a year earlier. And it's only because of her medical condition, which is outrageous. And it never set well with me that I was home and Natalia was still in the medical.
Because I'm banking on, we're gonna get out together. I'm like, yeah, man.
Man, girls are way,
And
you guys are
then-
loyal.
But I did meet her at Nation.
Yeah.
I was there for the burger.
I was like, God, I have to wait 12 more
Victoria's
months.
Secret bag.
Like,
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was awful.
Well, we're glad you're out. So the next question is going to be really tough. We've talked about how you were incarcerated unjustly for a plant that grows from the ground. What would be the biggest burden on your family? And I know you were a mother during your incarceration. Your father. Were you a mother or no?
No.
No. Okay. So what would be the biggest burden? I know my mom missed me a lot, but she could do without. I'll be all right. I got a brother.
Right. We were actually talking about this yesterday, actually, in regards to Parker, right? There's several burdens, but one burden is feeding me, right? Like I maxed out commissary every month, $360 a month.
So your family took care of you financially.
Then the phone, all 300 minutes a month, I maxed out. And so there's a financial burden of people on the outside still needing to take care of me. My daughter's been in private school her whole life, so the family had to like band together to split up that payment. And so there's like a real financial burden to being in prison when you have a loved one in prison. And then someone had to raise my daughter. Like my mom, my stepmom, they did a wonderful job, but we're talking about women who were in their early and mid 60s who had no intention of being a mother to a toddler again.
And what if they wouldn't have been there?
I couldn't imagine, right? And I lost my stepmom mid through my sentence to her battle with cancer. And some of the burdens don't go away. Some of the burdens will live with you forever. And I always say when a judge sentences you to whatever time he sentenced you to, he can't imagine what life, he doesn't know that you're going to lose a parent. Some people have lost children. Some people have, and they didn't let me go to the service. I didn't get to say my goodbyes. And so the burdens, I think even 5 years home haven't been processed. My daughter hasn't been able to process what it was.
How old was she when you went in?
Her 4th birthday was on Saturday. I went to jail Monday. And then I came home. And when I dropped off, I went to trial. So when I dropped off on Monday, I was confident that I was going to win. So I was confident that I'll be home.
So you got dragged into like a fake conspiracy where a bunch of people said you were involved in where somebody was selling a bunch of cannabis conspiracy and you were like an accessory to the crime, and they gave a mother 87 months.
Yeah. I put how much I allowed cannabis profits to be deposited into my account over a period of 9 months, actually while I was pregnant, right? And it was probably a total of like $750,000. Which is a joke, right? This is $1 billion industry, traded on the global trade stock exchange, deemed essential during the global pandemic, and they're worried about a little $750,000 profit. And
a revenue might not even
be for sure revenue. And my take home, right? Because I was just doing a favor for a friend, couldn't have been more than $15,000
over 8 months.
Over 8 months.
And you're running,
So what my gain was, let's say 15,000, I gave up 87 months of my life for. Never got to bury my stepmother. Missed out on 5 or 6 different birthdays. Like, my sister sent me a picture yesterday of my daughter, and I know it's like with a great heart that she's sending these pictures, but when I see it, I'm like, I don't even know that daughter. I wasn't at home for it. I never seen her at 6, 7, 8. It took almost 3 years before I got an in-person visit. And so the impact we're talking about on our families, I think, is unmeasurable.
About you, Randy? 27 years of visits.
So the burdens are really, when you get sentenced to prison, they sentence the families. And it's just so much drama because now many families have to take on jobs that they never thought they would be taking on, like maybe bagging groceries, which is what my wife did, walking dogs, or babysitting, or whatever it is to be able to pay the bills. And also, as she was talking about, trying to help the loved one. It's for me, commissary, phone, stuff like that, and books, magazines. It really amazes me how some families really stand behind you and support you, and it means a lot. And it just goes a long way when you have support like that. And when I first got indicted, my son was 7 days old. So 27 years later, he picks me up with my daughter, who was 7 years old when I got indicted. So the burden goes really deep. And we was talking about earlier, your first night out. My first night out, when I got finally to the house, I couldn't sleep. And woke up in the middle of the night and just wanted to walk. And I must have walked 5 miles. Then came back, and it was like a full moon. I'm going, shit, this shit's real. I'm helped. So anyway, that's it.
How about you, Anthony? You're sentenced to life in prison.
I think big burden on the families.
You move that a little closer.
Big burden on the families is one of the biggest ones on my family. I think your family does the time harder than we do. Even though it's scary inside the walls, I think it's harder on your family than it could ever be on us. You know, at the end of the day, you don't have to have commissary. You're going to be fed. You got clothes. But you know, the phone's unbelievable how much it costs to call home. Unbelievable.
How much is one phone call?
I believe it was like $8 when it first went down in 04, something like that, $8. And another thing is, they only give you 300 minutes when I got down. If you got 2 kids, I mean, do the math, 30 days. How are you supposed to have a relationship with your family? You know? And I think, you know, it's what really woke my eyes up is when my mom and dad came. They've never done any time before. I guess you could say I'm the black sheep of the family. You know, and they came to see me and that door slammed behind them and my mom started crying. Said it scared the living shit out of her. She knew she was trapped. You know, the things that I put my family through, you know, I can never take back.
Well, we're glad you're home with us, bro. You're doing good. Okay, kind of wrapping up. This is our reintegration. What barriers did you face re-entering society, and what helped you push through that? Let's start with you, Evelyn.
Barriers that I faced, I honestly didn't think I was going to face anyone. I'm a graduate, Loyola Marymount, degree, resume, corporate, hospitality. I went my first day out on ankle monitor February 1st and got a job at one of the most prestigious hotels in San Francisco. And I just knew, that's behind me. And I was on the job maybe a month and a half, and someone Googled my name, took it to HR, and they asked me to pack up my stuff. And that's when I knew that this is real. I also knew that I was privileged And I also knew that men in my position, men who maybe have a record, men who maybe have tattoos, men who, if I can't make it with my resume and how I present, there's no way. Like, I immediately understood recidivism at that moment. I immediately understood that I have a child that I have to feed. The only thing that matters to me is financial stability, and you all won't give me a job. If I had criminal friends, like, what are your options? So I immediately understood it. And so now I sell weed. No, right?
Didn't learn nothing.
Learn nothing, but I do feel like
No more money laundering, all right? No,
more money laundering.
750,000.
No. I do feel like I was pushed here because the fact is second chances are not real. They don't exist. I've had bank accounts closed. I just recently had my investment account closed because of the money laundering. And so it's consistently an uphill battle. It's consistently survivor mode. I haven't been able to take a break because I just went on an interview recently. I made it to the 4th interview. It's a panel interview, big company. My work aligns with it perfectly. Community engagement manager. That's what they're hiring for. There's no candidate better than me. And I get to the end of the interview, and one of the ladies is like, I see you're a podcast host, a business owner. Is there anything else about you that we haven't discussed that we should discuss? You can't beat Google. It's there. I do this, in my spare time. It's there. And so as much as they say, take it off the application, there's second chances. People are going to hire you. The minute you hit Evelyn LaChapelle, it's like, oh no. And so I have had no option but to bootstrap it and hustle. I still have a kid to feed. I still have bills to pay. And so callawelady.com. Right.
So you tried the corporate, I and they kicked you out, even though you're a beautiful woman with a degree. They kicked you out because of your felony. So now you're back to hustling.
And now I'm back to hustling. And
but legally through the state.
Yes, legally.
Hopefully
through the state.
So they say.
Also at the lake. Also, you can call me.
All right, Randy, same question. What are the barriers you've faced since re-entering, if you've had any? Because you're always so happy. I don't understand.
When I come out, I was sentenced to 6 months in a halfway house. So I got a job at the halfway house making minimum wage, $7.25 an hour in Florida, passing out tickets at a parking lot that my friend happens to own the mall that we're at, that I'm working at. So that job moved into a manager, and I first had a place to live at his house, and was blessed in the racing community. I have some friends that had race cars, and they asked me to drive some races to get back in the driver's seat, and that led into an instruction job in a Corvette school. So a lot of times in life, it's who you happen to know and stuff. So I was really supported with the racing community that I was involved with before I went in. I was a black sheep. When I went in, the racing community kind of didn't want nothing to do with me. But now I come out and they pat me on the back. And so from there on, a few years ago, I applied for a social equity cultivation license in the state of New Jersey and was awarded a social equity license and a manufacturing license. And I find myself now back, will be in the weed game in a very big way here soon. Currently building out a facility. Octane. Since I've written a book, since I've gotten out, my first book called Survival of the Fastest, it became a bestseller, which is I'm amazed at some of the things that God puts in our place and people in our life, because I've recently optioned it for a full feature film, and they've attached a director, a screenplay writer, and so that's moving forward. And just I'm whether or not we're what we want to call success, to me, is it's not financial. Success is when your actions meet your intentions. They mirror each other. And for the last few years, I was the CEO of a nonprofit organization called Freedom Grow, and we support cannabis prisoners. And we have amazing programs going on to help these people and their children. And so we do a holiday fundraising. We support the prisoners with commissary money to help them with their commissary and their phone bills and so forth like that. And just have met amazing people and gotten so much support from the advocacy community. And just a part of really trying to pay it forward. I like to say each day of our life, if we can be the best version of ourselves, that's one simple thing. If you can uplift one person in your life, you've done something. So that's why I'm here at this podcast. I hope to spread the message for Trump to release all these cannabis prisoners, bring them home so they can be part of their families.
Well, we got a Trump releasee right here. So what's been the biggest barrier since Big Donald let you out at the end of his term last year?
One of the biggest things for me is when I got back out on the streets is the way people act these days. It blows my mind away. It's not like it used to be where you can knock on your neighbor's door and get a carton of eggs or a loaf of bread. If you knock on your neighbor's door today, they're going to look at you crazy. You might even pull a gun on you. The world is so self-centered, and it amazes me, and it still bothers me today. Obviously I came out with a serious chip on my shoulder, and I'm still working on it. I mean, that's something that you have to have to be able to walk in the prisons. Is basically no nonsense.
How many years in the USPs did you have to do?
17 and a half. I did all my time in the maximum securities. Never got a chance to a nonviolent criminal. I wasn't in prison 45 minutes. We were in the laundry room, and I watched someone get murdered from me to you away. 45 minutes of just getting in the prison system, and I was like,
17 years of that. So as you integrate,
it just blew my mind away. And then you come out here and you try to get a job, and they find out that you had a life sentence and for narcotics, marijuana, they call it, whatever, which is, I believe, a plant that the creator put here for us to use. Don't abuse.
How can you abuse it?
Yeah, I don't think you can. I don't think anybody's ever overdosed on it. And it blows my mind away that people are still in prison for it right now. It's 2025.
That hurts my attitude knowing that, because we know the seriousness of prison, and we see all these people making all this money, and we still have people incarcerated for the same thing.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the people that own the businesses, some of them help. We have a lot of, but the people that own businesses that don't help these guys is ridiculous. Yeah, unaware.
There's so many of them up in New York. It's not even funny.
That's why I credit Evelyn and Randy, because you guys have been at this for a while, educating people, just that people are in prison. Because I know in Minnesota, I kind of followed your guys' lead and just letting people know, hey, people are in prison for federal marijuana crimes. A lot of people open their eyes just educating. So that is something we do. So for you, what was the hardest thing when you got out of prison? The barriers that?
The barriers for me, as of right now, is I'm struggling to get a vehicle because my medical conditions, I have a lot of appointments. I see a lot of specialists and things like that. I live with my family. They had to really move their lives around to accommodate me. And I'm very grateful for that. But I see that, being formal incarcerated, for marijuana, it's hard to get employment, and especially with your medical condition. And, I'm on Social Security. So, how far does that get you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's a struggle every day.
That's one of the things you just mentioned it. So we have a felony for marijuana, and that's still the same felony for selling meth,
That's crazy.
So really all we have is the network of each other, the formerly incarcerated individuals, or we have business owners that are making money off of what we went to prison for, hopefully will help us, or we start our own businesses because we have a felony, not a it's a marijuana felony to us. I think it's cool. I love my felony, but social equity, hey, it's great. But for you, it might be a burden,
So we're forced to start our own businesses. Okay, so we'll end this. What message would you guys like to give the people incarcerated on cannabis charges, especially those with long sentences, life sentences? We got Parker Coleman, he's got 60 years. Frank Rogers, 22. My man Michael Woods, life sentence. Edwin Rubis has already been in 27 years. What can we tell these people? What's the message? Let's start with you, Evelyn.
I honestly don't have a message for them because they're in the prison. The message, they live with it every day. I don't think there's any words that can comfort someone sitting in prison while this industry generates over $1 billion in revenue. So my message is for the sitting president, Donald Trump. If you can get your felonies pardoned, if you can act above the law, there's no reason why Parker Coleman is still in prison for a nonviolent cannabis offense. My message is to the industry. If you are legalizing in a state that has yet to legalize, right? Because we get new states every term almost legalizing, that you demand in your states that we won't legalize until those people are free. That I believe the industry has buying power. I believe that when a state makes a decision to legalize cannabis, is for the tax revenue, it's for the money. So deny them the tax revenue, deny them the money, and get the folks out of prison. It's not a hard lift. We're not talking 200,000 cannabis offenders, right? Like on a federal level, I think we're somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000.
I think they even said 2 and 2,500.
2 and 20, like it's not a heavy lift. And so my message is to the sitting president, to those who are in charge, just let the people out. And then I'm done. When Parker Coleman gets out, I'm going to move on. I'm going to change my name and go get a job.
You got a job. Call me, lady. Lady. So, love that. So my message for the inmates, for the cannabis inmates that are in their program. Talk to your psychology department. And I say that sincerely because I developed a relationship with the psychology department and became a mentor in a special program. It was a 1-year program. And they had told me I'm maximum custody. And like Anthony, I spent 27 years in maximum custody. So my advice is do things to programs that will benefit you, the inmate, and become a mentor. My last 9 years, I was a suicide companion. I sat with men for 4 hours a day that had tried to take their lives. And by doing that, this was before I even found out I had a possible chance of going through the courts to get out.
So you're sitting there with a life sentence, mentoring people in the hole.
Yeah, mentoring people
It's a beautiful thing.
They're in a special all glass cell with a concrete bunk with no mattress, with a suicide jacket. They get fed every meal, bag lunches. They don't get forks and knives. They eat it with their fingers. And they had stopped that due to someone using a fork to try to pick out their veins in the arms. So program for the inmates, get to know the psychology department, because I had the supervisor of psychology department write a letter that I was astounded that this letter was so good, and it was sent to the judge. And it very well could have had an impact on his decision making, letting me gain my freedom. And it's amazing the things that you can accomplish in there. I became a yoga instructor in the joint and had some of the first yoga classes in maximum custody, and everybody laughed at it and said, man, you're going to do that sissy ass shit. And next thing I know, I'm breaking them down. I'm breaking them down because I'm trying to do power yoga. So we'll come and get some, and let's see how your static strength is. So amazing things that you can do in helping the inmates within the prison system. And a lot of we had Chad Marks on earlier. He became a jailhouse attorney. So he's helping others. And that's one of the greatest things that we all can do. And we're blessed with the ability to uplift others. And it can be in a way that you never even see coming. And just by giving someone a smile or shaking someone's hand and wishing them a good day. So there's a lot of positivity things that can go on while you in the joint. And actually, this is going to sound weird, but it was probably what I needed because back in the day in the 80s when I was out importing and bringing in large scale loads of cannabis and making tons of money, I had kind of not put my best foot forward, and it was more about me maybe, when it could have been about others and so forth like that. So sometimes when we go to prison, we actually make ourselves a better person. It makes us really realize gratitude, what we are grateful for right now. We're grateful that we're having a nice hot lunch maybe, or we're not in the shoe, because out of the 27 years that I did 7 years in the shoe. And 2 years was my longest stint in solitary
7
confinement.
years. Wow.
So
That's how much time I did in prison almost.
just feeling blessed every day that you wake up. Every morning I give myself gratitude for being awake and having my conscious, that I'm aware, because there's things that can happen while you're in the joint. I had a friend that got beat down while he's sleeping, and he was in a coma for 6 months. And when he woke up, he's in Springfield Penitentiary at the medical facility, but yet he can't talk and he can't walk. So giving blessings every day and having gratitude for what you do have and your awareness is a big thing.
So gratitude would be.
Gratitude's the best way to start your day.
How about you, Anthony? What would you say to the inmates locked up with long sentences on cannabis charges?
First and foremost, stay strong and know that you have people out here fighting for you.
Hell yeah.
There's people out here fighting for you. And I hope Trump and his administration, or somebody on his administration's watching this podcast, they need to do the right thing. Like this young lady said, it's okay for you to pardon your felonies. Why isn't it okay to pardon these people?
Well, in all fairness, Biden pardoned his son too. So there's a lot of going around. He was smoking crack,
Bottom line is,
with a gun.
Yeah.
I'm a Democrat too. Yeah, I know, but I want to I want Trump to be. I feel like Biden is done, and we're going on Trump, and there's a lot of opportunity.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And Trump likes to hear the negative things about Biden, and he failed our community. You know what I mean? We could be sitting here having a party like, hey, Biden's the greatest guy ever, but I'm a Democrat, and I'll tell you right now, he sucks.
I know that the system's getting worse. They just have to. My way of making it through the system is work out every day.
Hell yeah.
Get your mind right every day.
We'll close with you, Natalia. What's your message of hope to the people incarcerated, especially the females incarcerated on cannabis charges? There are some in there. A lot of them.
I agree with Randy. Programming. That saved my mental, because I was structured. I had something to look forward to every day. It's a routine. And that keeps you, you know what I'm saying, kind of like normal, so to speak, while in prison. But programming is really a good thing. It's a really good thing. Yeah.
All right. That's the end of this panel. Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. The next panel will have the lifers that were freed under President Trump. We have 3 of them: Pharrell Scott, Anthony DeJohn, and Craig Cecil. It's going to be awesome. Main event, last podcast. Yeah.
Even on the break, just don't let everyone. Still screaming. Say, we're all here. You like to scream forever.
Yes. Thank you for being here, though, too. Yeah.
That's not hard, but
Oh, no.
I, okay. Thank you. So.
Okay.
So.
You know,
It's just the tiniest thing.
it's supposed to be what, Saturday or Sunday?
Yeah, a little bit, thank you.
Dial
right here.
Yep, 5 minutes. Oh, let's go. Hey. Go.
This one. No, we use that. That's a big step. Right there. Say that. Come here. You're so low. Almost all. Yeah, that's where we fucked up. I should have went to Arlington. Are you in Arlington? Did you go through there? She would have looked like you're driving there? No, there, I stayed there. I'm almost turned right. I almost turned
That was like part of the routine you could hear about the gym.
Oh, Chevrolet door.
Give me this, give me that.
Let's get it going. Right here. He's right here. Hey, for real. He's right here. He's right there. You come here. Solo. He's right here. He's right there. There he is. He's right there.
You don't mind.
Oh, I see.
Oh, yeah.
Take a couple for you. 1, 2. You both look tall.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah, y'all got walked up. All right, let's sit down. We're all ready. All right, no. Break some security, you know what I mean? Break 19. Craig. Hell yeah. Yeah, Pharrell Scott. Love it.
What'd you do?
We're ready for y'all.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go.
I'm gonna sit here and elbow tone.
No, you always said it.
But I'm hoping you're enjoying this. I told you, I thought you would. Because we get to be on.
So should have their.
Nobody's put any limits on us.
We get a smile.
And I think,
Going to the papers.
uh-oh. Aren't we supposed to have the sign behind us with the height measurement? All right.
Superstars.
Those might have been. Is Randy talking about this?
No, he's gonna have the Trump.
I think we're just the Trump
You
guys.
guys could just, when you talk, just push it over.
Okay.
How many podcasts have you done, Travis?
Got a few of them. I started about 2 years ago with all this. I was doing construction, man. I didn't even know that. I could sell weed.
I have to have him come inspect my house. He was doing granite countertops, and last week I spent a lot of money on granite countertops.
Caleb.
What's up? I'm gonna send you all these photos anyway.
Give me like a 90-second video when I'm interviewing.
On your phone?
Yeah, but right now give me a picture because I'm a
Yes, sir.
And I can tell you, Kristen's watching us.
Yeah. Chris will win. I think Wells watched. Oh, you did? He's happy.
You want more? I'm here all day.
Yes.
Yeah, just give me a 90-second video while I'm interviewing them.
On your phone?
Sure, we're about to start.
I have a fun opening for this.
Yeah.
The day we got freed, at 3 o'clock or 3:30 the next morning, my phone rang. I answered it. It was Corvain Cooper. He was obviously crazy drunk. And he goes, brother, the 11 of us are joined at the hip forever. Trump made us all a family.
It'd be nice to meet up with everybody at the same time, man.
That would be dope.
Well, this is my first time, meeting you in person.
Yeah.
We're all in person.
Talked and we've been on FaceTime.
Absolutely.
It's a different podcast.
And both of you just talking on the phone, we kind of, meshed right. You know what I mean? And now it's cool to put a person to that voice, you know.
All right. Here you go, Philip.
Thank you.
All right, you ready? All right. Final panel of the day. 3 distinguished guests we're lucky to have. All you guys were sentenced to life in prison on cannabis charges, and you're free now. We have Pharrell Scott, Anthony DeJohn, and Craig Cecil. So I'd like to take a second. You guys introduce yourselves. We've already heard from Craig, life sentence. So just start with Craig. Go over it again.
Well, again, and shortly before the events of September 11th, I was arrested for conspiring to distribute marijuana. Although I had no prior convictions, nobody was hurt. I didn't get a lot of money. I was still sentenced to life without parole, primarily because I refused to rat on everybody. And everybody knows how that works in the feds that are aware of this. But, of course, for me, on Trump's last half day in office, at 5 minutes after midnight, I received a call from Ivanka Trump. The first sentence I'll never forget. She says, I'm Ivanka Trump, and my father, the President of the United States, has commuted your sentence from life imprisonment to time served. I'll never forget that one. And she went on with a little small talk about we believe that, you're going to thrive if you hit the street. But then the fun part is it was a while later, about 3:30 in the morning the next day, I got a call from one of the people that received clemency with us, Corvain Cooper, who sure sounded like he had a few drinks, which he deserved. And but he went on and he goes, 11 of us got clemency from our marijuana sentences by Trump. And we're joined as family forever. We're forever going to be joined as family. And we're forever a group. And he started naming that. I picture us riding on the plane. And John Knock is flying the plane.
John Knock was there.
He was one of our 11 that received clemency. And he just ran down the list of each and every one of us with a different role on this airplane. But you know what? He's kind of right. I've spoken to all 11 people. Just yesterday, I met Pharrell and Tony for the first time in person, but we've spoken many times on the phone. And we truly do share something that we don't have to say. Just looking at each other, just discussing, we share something as people who lived in prison with life sentences, knowing that we didn't get out of prison until we left in a bag, is a set of emotions that, we just can't make you understand, but we all understand. And I learned this for the first time of how we share this. About 2 or 3 months out of prison, I went down to an event in Florida, and I heard some guy named Randy there. And somebody else said, I think that's Randy Lanier. I went over, you Randy Lanier? Yeah. Told him who I was. And he gave me a hug.
Heck yeah.
that had 10,000 words in it. Just that we know how it feels to, after one of the officers shakes you down and steals your underwear just because they can. How mad you feel and how sad you feel because you know you're going to endure that until you die. That's just an emotion that, yes, it's not enjoyable for the people that have a go home date, but it's still a lot rougher when you know there's no out, there's no end, there's no, this is it. That's a painful experience. And that's something that we share, that we know. But we also know the joy of getting out, feeling like a 3-year-old kid because the whole world's new to us once again. And, having those doubts. How am I going to support myself? How am I going to live next year? How is this all going to work out? The bank won't let me have an account. The parole officer won't let me have the job I want. All the different, challenges we ran into. I found a great job right when I got out. I spent a bunch of time. I was going to be able to work as a clerk in the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals in Chicago in the federal building. It was great. I talked to the judge. I went through the interview program. Everything was looking beautiful for a really nice job. I called the parole officer and I go, what better job? I'm working in the federal building where your office is. What better place could I be for you to keep an eye on me? Nope, you can't have that job. There's too much responsibility and too much pay. Go get a job washing dishes. Now, how does that make you feel? So yes, we hit the street and had a bunch of things, a bunch of barriers that jumped up that you could have never expected. And we're still living some of that, but we're living through it. And I think I can speak for all the lifers here. I think we're enjoying every day of it.
Let's go over to you, Pharrell. Introduce yourself and what got you here and the prison time and Trump eventually letting you out.
Pharrell Scott from West Dallas, Texas. And I was released by Trump also after doing 13 years of a life sentence plus 60 years for weed that I had never got caught with. Somebody else got caught, told on me, and I received a life sentence because I wouldn't talk. I was off for 12 years. I said no. They went down to 8. I still said no. Same thing they was going to give me the 8 for, they gave me the life because I wouldn't cooperate with the government. Yeah.
Heck yeah, life for pot. Now you're here, Anthony.
2004, I was arrested for a 1,000-kilo conspiracy, and they offered me 30 years. I have 2 prior marijuana charges, so they were 3 striking me and gave me 30. Told me to sign 30 years or cooperate. Well, cooperating ain't part of it at all. And they said if I took them to trial, I was going to get a life sentence. I believe 30 years is a life sentence at 30 years old. So I took them to trial and they gave me a life sentence. And just like, these gentlemen just said, if you're not willing to cooperate with them, they're going to hammer you. That's the bottom line. And I'm just happy that I was invited down here to be able to speak and bringing on a lot of emotions for sure.
Heck yeah.
I appreciate you people inviting me down there.
You're very important. So Pharrell, we've heard from Craig and Anthony on the exact moment when they were sitting in prison getting out and Trump, sent the word down or however it works, your counselor comes sees us. Can you tell us about the exact moment of like when you finally realized you were getting out of prison, what you were doing inside prison when it happened and were you expecting the clemency from Trump or was it all just completely out of the blue?
No, I wasn't expecting. It was out of the blue. My lawyer had called me like a month before, and she was saying that she was giving me a heads up that I may be getting released before Christmas or when Trump leaves, and if Trump don't let me go, that she was confident that Biden administration would let me go. I'm so glad Trump let me go, man. I don't know what to do because I honestly thought I was gonna die in there. You know, I see a lot of guys in there 30 years, 40 years, man. You know, you think you're gonna fall into the same thing. You're not gonna just wake up one day and tell you to go home. You know, so I was there on the bump. I was telling my celly that, man, if somebody don't say nothing by 11 o'clock or 12, man, I'm hit like good weed. You know? So I sit there, 10:30 came, 11. Say, man, it's over with.
So you were kind of thinking about it in the last days of Trump's presidency. So Biden had already won the election.
Yeah.
And now you're like, am I on the list? You're not really like, you're not calling every day, checking. You're
no, because I've done my whole time in USP. You know, if COVID was around at the time, we weren't using phones like that. It's on lockdown all the
So you're locked in your cell 24 hours a day.
Yeah. And you know, nobody to call on the outside to check on nothing. So I guess about 11:30, 12, knock on my door. And I was frustrated, mad. I'm thinking it's something else, and I yelled out, "What?" And the guard said, "Don't what me. Come sign these papers." And she slid them on the door, and I ain't read them. Excuse me, I ain't read them. I read and saw Trump there. I just signed it so fast, man. That's all I saw, the first page, you know. Time served, clemency, community sentence, and man, cheers.
Cheers to Trump.
I sit there and glad to leave, man. I tell you, I didn't know I was leaving. I did 4,835 days, man.
4,835 days for a cannabis crime.
Never knew I was coming home to that last day. 35.
Okay, so I've already asked Anthony this and Craig this. This will be for you, Pharrell. After years behind bars, what was the most surprising and emotional part about re-entering society when you finally got out?
Most surprising is not knowing how to use a phone, for one. I had a flip phone when I went in there. Surprising that kind of like people had wrote you off, man. Didn't expect to see you. They was moving out here like they would never see me again. So it was difficult.
How about you, Craig? What was the most surprising thing you had upon re-entering society?
Just how much it changed, how lost I was. I felt like a little kid, you know, just relearning the world. I walked through the grocery store and didn't recognize anything. When I went away, coffee came in metal cans. All the meats had different names. I mean, so much had changed. I didn't recognize the grocery store. Now, how much could food change? But everything had changed so much. And that was the amazing part to me, that I had to learn the world and learn the challenges that I had by not being able to use a computer, not being able to do all the things that people took for granted. When I was trying to explain something to people over the phone, they're laughing at me and they're like, "Why don't you just take a picture and send it to me?" And that was something I never even considered. But I did have fun. When my daughter picked me up at the prison, we got in the car, and that's when I finally believed that I was actually getting out. Because as a lifer, you live your whole bit as an up and down. You're forever getting one promise after another that guaranteed under this new law, this new court decision, this new whatever, you're going home. The staff would tell you that, the inmates would tell you that, lawyers would tell you that. So there's always this big up and down that you're going home, and oh shoot, I'm dead again, you know. And you lay down after you see the Court of Appeals says rejected. The judge says he's not even going to look at your argument. You know, whatever you read, you throw on the floor, you lay on your bunk, you stare at that spot on the ceiling again, and damn, again, you know. And so again, when everybody told me that Trump's going to release you from prison, I didn't believe it until I was actually in the parking lot in the car with my daughter. And the fun part is, we left the prison. A bunch of guards were waving as we were going out the front gate because they were coming in for a shift change. And my daughter handed me a flat thing that I didn't think anything of and put it in my lap. And my daughter's like, "Why don't you talk?" No, I looked at her in the car and we are talking. She goes, no, talk on the phone. Talk on the phone, there's no phone. She goes, that. I could have never imagined this flat thing was a telephone. My mom was on the other end of it. Good, Jody. What
was the biggest surprise after all that time?
I think for me, the biggest surprise was just to be able to breathe fresh air. You know, it was amazing to me. And to see how fast the world was moving. I mean, when I went in 2004, technology was so slow. Now you got a phone where you can ask it any question and it answers you. It blew me away. You know, it probably took me about maybe an hour on the bus and talking to people that were on the bus with me and just asked them how to move around. And I started moving around. I was talking to my mom and she's explaining to me, and it's just technology and how far it's advanced. Simply like what we're doing right here, right now, live streaming. And I'm not sure how many people are watching, but
there's a lot.
The technology is so far advanced, you know, it's like they say you have the world in the palm of your hand, you know?
All right, we'll start with Craig. So now you guys are out. After all them years behind bars, what has this last few years of freedom meant to you personally and professionally? Like how have you gotten back with your family members? How has work been?
Well, like I say, every day is a success. In prison, there's not many successes. They're small. You might be able to help somebody and win a legal argument for them, or, you know, get in an argument with staff and actually win it. And I mean, there's a few things, but since we're out, every day is a success. And to be honest, it's actually an honor I think that we all share. We're a sign of the success of the person who released us from prison by having faith in us. You know, we are making, and I'm hoping that this kind of message somehow gets to President Trump, knowing that he should be proud of having released us, that we're all employed, we're all, you know, liked by our neighbors, our communities are happy to have us, you know, rather than, you know, being in the joint and just surviving. And well, shoot, we had chicken 10 times a week. Could you imagine that? I mean, I think I could speak for all of us. We don't go out of our way to get chicken anymore.
How about you, Anthony? Personally and professionally?
Well, personally, it's been an emotional roller coaster. I find myself still running with an iron fist. And it's not right. And I'm seeking help to take care of it. I don't have a good relationship with my kids. You know, I left when one was 12, the other one was 2. And it's a tough ride. It really is. As far as work goes, I've never had a problem working in my life. That's another question the feds asked, you know, as they were chasing me around on the streets trying to catch me red-handed. You would work 16 hours a day, and where did you know, exactly. I'm not part of this organization, you know, but whatever. They paint their picture, and, you know, that's the way it is. But as far as work goes, I'm operating heavy equipment at the present moment, and eventually my intentions are to get my own business going, you know, with heavy equipment or whatever it is. It's just, it's hard, man, to adapt back to, especially the way people are so self-centered now. And it's like they don't really want to see people like you guys that come here and invite me here to want to help. It's hard to find up there where I live, man. New York's a different type of state.
Not a lot of sympathy?
Not really, man. I mean, I have some friends, you know, that are real tight with me.
You know, where I found a lot of compassion is in cannabis consumers. Anybody that's like a true cannabis consumer, they really feel for the struggle that we go through trying to bring that plant to people.
It's like Pharrell was saying, the people you thought were your friends, man.
Oh, yeah.
You got out and they're just running and just didn't even think twice, never thought they'd never see you again. And it's funny how they try to look you up, you know, after doing all that time. I had to tell a couple people to keep it pushing.
It's probably for the best.
Oh, absolutely. No question about it. I mean, you don't know me when I'm down. You don't need to know me when I'm up.
Yeah.
You know, it's sad to say something like that. You know, it's really not who I am, but the truth hurts sometimes, you know, and you have to tell people. But there's still a lot of work to be done.
Bro, what are these past few years been for you personally and professionally, and how has that been?
Past few years.
After 15 years inside, right?
Craig say, every day is a success that you're out here. Professionally, you know, I've been working. I own a restaurant now.
Okay.
Fried chicken.
Hell yeah. He didn't get sick of the chicken.
No, because, matter of fact, before you say that, because we did have chicken every Tuesday and Thursday, but we didn't have no fried chicken.
Hell yeah.
It's oven fried
Chicken King, yeah.
They want to keep you healthy, right? Keep you in there as long as possible, you know, so they give you oven baked chicken.
Yeah.
So when I got out, that was the first thing I ate was some fried chicken.
Some fried chicken. And you're like, I'm just going to open a restaurant. I eat this every day now.
I eat
Yeah.
fried chicken every day, man, for about 9 months.
Hell yeah.
So,
nothing wrong with that.
Free at that, you know, at my spot. But yeah, man, it's been hard though. Hard right now for me, going through some things, trying to get straightened out with my restaurant, you know. But fighting, so I'm gonna hang in there, get things done.
All right. Well, I'm gonna start with this next question. I'm proud of all you guys, if my opinion matters. You were in prison for 15, almost 20 years, all of you guys, and you're out here now. Trump let you out. You guys are out here. You're free. You're not going crazy. So what makes you feel proud? What makes you feel proud about everything you're doing, and how have you used this second chance to make yourself feel proud about what you're doing and that you deserve to be out here?
Well, as a lot of you know, I founded an organization called the Second Chance Foundation. And different than most organizations, our only mission is to help people that are imprisoned. We help them with legal briefs. It's an attorney in me at the center of it. And we help people write briefs, follow them through in the court. Just help them with their legal causes, sometimes help them with their cause to get medical treatment within the prison that they should have. So I enjoy the fact that I do still call myself a prisoner. Of course, I'm not imprisoned, but because I talk to prisoners virtually every day, I hear from at least one of them. I keep one foot still in the prison. I have an idea of what today is going on in the prison. Like with eggs. Eggs only exist in powdered form in the prison nowadays because of the cost of eggs.
Wow.
Now, we didn't have that when we were in. We actually got eggs. They were little eggs, but they were eggs. But things like that, the prisons have become more brutal in a lot of ways. But that's how I get enjoyment, is I made a promise to the people when I left, and I'm keeping it, and they still rely on me. I have over 200 people on my core links, and they email me on a regular basis. They call me on the phone on a regular basis. And in many instances, I'm able to in one way or another, help them out. Even if it's in advice, how to deal with their dilemma. They won't give me my First Step Act credits. They won't transfer me to the low institution I qualify for. Things like that, how to walk them through the process of getting that done.
How about you, Anthony? What keeps you pushing? What makes you proud?
Well, for me, I like to help people out a lot. Sometimes I put myself aside and I help a lot of people out in the communities, and I'm still helping a lot of people behind the walls that probably won't ever get out. Sad to say, there's some good people in there, and it makes me feel good to help people. There's times where I know I need to slow down and take a look at myself. Like coming down here kind of opened up some emotions that I needed to see and feel. Just talking about it. you know, maybe seek some counseling or whatever the case is. And I'm in the process of doing that and just being a good person of society every day, you know? Yeah. Got great neighbors. They get a kick out of parole officers when they come over there still. So they're like, man, are those
How much
people?
parole you have left?
I'm hoping August. I'm
Nice.
hoping in August they cut me free. But you know, I work every day. Being a productive person in society is, you know, what keeps me pushing.
You, Pharrell, what keeps you pushing and keeps you proud of being out? Keeps you proud of yourself?
Keep me pushing, keep me proud, and making a fucking judge out of her life. Because she deemed me no longer needed on this earth. Life plus 100, plus 60 years.
For a plant.
Yeah, to die in there. You know, she deemed I'm no longer needed out here. You know, so that make me proud to make her out of her life, to show her that she was wrong.
Absolutely.
You know, to do that. Take me away from my family, come home, got 7 grandkids. Didn't have none when I left, you know, and never met them till I got home, you know. And my little one, Popsicle, I call him. Just like he was saying earlier, man, it's just, I used to come, when I got home, I would sit outside with Popsicle on my tailgate, looking at the moon and stuff. I hadn't been outside literally in 13 years at nighttime, bro. We would sit out there 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, just looking in the sky and stuff. Because you don't go outside at night in the USP, where I was at.
Yeah.
You know, it's time to come in, count time, rack time, when the sun started going down. They got all lights in the world out there, but they don't want you out there at night. You're going to get over that 40-foot wall, three electrical barbed wire fences. So, yeah, that's what I'm proud of. Okay.
As individuals who are granted clemency, what would you say about the justice system? How did the justice system in your incarceration shape your view of the justice system, the federal justice system?
I think more than anything, we learned how wrong it is. And not only, I think we can all look at our criminal proceedings and realize how wrong the proceedings were, how wrong our lawyers represented us, how wrong the prosecutor behaved, how wrong the judge was in, you know, how they did stuff. And that's because, just like the Federal Bureau of Prison staff, there's no oversight. There's no boss. There's no outside arbiter to come in and say, hey, you're screwing up.
Or screwing that guy over.
Right. That doesn't exist. So we've learned that there is no justice in the justice system. And, you know, I, for one, and others are trying to make changes, but that system is hard to turn around. And yes, we're going to make some small differences, but there's not the system that Americans think we should have. And I'm hoping we can work to change that.
Sometimes it feels like if the government puts a spotlight on you, you're going to prison. And whoever decides shines that spotlight, that's anybody's guess.
And who they choose not to charge, or whose sentence they choose to reduce.
How about you, Anthony? What's your view of the federal justice system after?
I believe a lot like what Craig's exactly saying. And, you know, this might be a sad thing to say, but they're as crooked as they come. They're as crooked as they come. If you can give a man a life sentence for a plant because he's not willing to tell, I mean, it's, you know, it's probably not the right thing to say, but I don't really have any respect for him after the way they treated me and my family, throwing me to the wolves, you know, never to come home again, knowing I had 2 children, you know, mom, dad, brother and sister, and just don't care. And they knew that I was, you know, working, I guess because I didn't pay taxes. That's what the marshals told me. You're here for tax evasion for real, but we have to charge you with conspiracy to marijuana. And I looked at him and said, what sense does that make? It's just, they're crooked. That's the bottom line. Putting people on the stand. I've never seen a day in my life saying they bought weed from me. Who is this guy? Just ask him what vehicle I was driving. That's all we need to do. He couldn't.
Conspiracy.
Yeah. Knowing and not telling is a definition of conspiracy. Knowing there's a crime and not telling. That's the way I look at it. I mean, us talking right here, we could be talking about something that's a conspiracy in their eyes. And the way they made my trial up for 10 days it just blew my mind away. It was like a cartoon. I knew the second day in that I was doomed. There was no doubt about it. The way they painted the pictures and you know what I mean? It's all lies. And that's what I tried telling the prosecutor. Why don't you just keep it real? You never caught me with a sale. You caught this guy over here with 500 pounds, whatever it is. I mean,
Gave him 42 months.
he got 10 years, got back out and did it again. He's back in jail right now.
42 months.
I mean, I'll tell you right now, man, I have no faith in it.
The justice system,
At all.
federal justice.
At all. Not one bit, man. Sorry. It's just the way I feel. And I mean, these gentlemen are still sitting in prison for something that's legal in states. Come on, man. What sense does that make?
It's being massively sold everywhere, and they're inside the same plant.
That's crazy. You come up to New York and you see these stores. There's people literally waiting in 15, 20-minute lines to get in these stores, man. You know, and like I said, when I was in Florence, Colorado, USP Florence, the guards were literally laughing at me, man, because they get all your paperwork and they know what you're in there for. And they were just mesmerized by it. They were like, we can't even believe it, dude. That you're,
Life sentence.
yeah. They were like, you know, one guard told me, I can walk in the store right now with a grocery cart, load it up, push it right out, throw it in my trunk and ride. You know, and I just, it hurt, man, to hear him saying that, you know what I mean? And basically making a mockery of me, you know?
How about you, Pharrell? What's your view of the justice system? And
Same thing, man, just crooked. It ain't saying in my case, they act like it didn't happen. Found out later after my trial was over with that one of the prosecutors was in a relationship with one of my jurors. But they swept it on the rug and turned me down everything I tried to file in the court. Told me I was on a fishing expedition. You know what I'm saying? So maybe
and you're sitting in there with a life sentence for cannabis.
Right.
And you're concerned that your prosecutor is in a relationship with one of your
that's what I was
jurors.
fighting at first. I felt like that was my best way out. And
Yeah.
after that, that's when I turned to try and get clemency, you know, because I saw the courts was going to turn me down at every turn. And, you know, maybe it was two prosecutors, and maybe one of them had a change of heart because he's a federal judge now. Sam Sheldon. And he wrote a letter for me to put in my clemency package.
The prosecutor on your case wrote a letter.
Yeah, stating that even though I was a leader of a large scale marijuana operation, that they offered me the 12 years. And unfortunately, he turned it down and took it to trial and got life. And he said, even though I think Mr. Scott deserved to do some time for his crime, I'm strongly against him having a life sentence. And they put that letter in my clemency package. So maybe that's what I was. Maybe.
Okay. What do you guys want the public and the press and the people in power to understand about clemency and how it relates to cannabis? And what's your feelings about the people still inside prison on cannabis charges as you see this industry unfold into a $20 billion a year industry? Start with you, Anthony.
Yeah, well, my first thing is, why are we wasting taxpayers' money if something's legal? I mean, the money that they're making inside this system is unbelievable.
Cannabis?
No, I'm just saying it's inside the jail system. You're keeping these people inside the system that are nonviolent criminals. I mean, there's got to be another way, maybe some probation, or I'm not saying, you know, I'm not sure exactly what the tag is on an inmate a day, but they're making money, man. It's a big business in this country. Locking people up. That's all they want to do is lock them up, especially the federal system. Once they get their hooks in you, they don't want to let you go. And I just think it's a big industry to lock people up. And to hold people for marijuana, it just blows my mind away. I thought they were going to let all of us out. You know, anybody that had I mean, that's the way it should have went, for real. I mean, truth be told, everybody should have got out that was in there for weed. not just a certain few. You know what I mean?
Well,
It's,
Biden said it. He said he's going to let everybody out in the debate with Cory Booker. And he didn't let him out.
But that was
and
a lie.
yeah, absolutely.
The key word in there was letting out small time federal marijuana prisoners, no small marijuana prisoners. So nobody got out on that.
And I feel bad for the guys that are still stuck in there.
Yeah, especially on
'Cause can you imagine, you know, just thinking, damn, man, let these guys out. What about me?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just, and they're stuck, man. It's a terrible life to live. I'll tell you that right now. And them penitentiaries are, it's just every day your life is not
I think
promised.
it's sweet in those federal prisons.
No,
There's
it's,
so much violence, bro. You know,
it's,
like you say, you see so much blood
oh my God.
shed, death, all the time.
Yeah.
It's real.
It really is.
Guards, they don't do nothing. They let inmates run their prison. It's
Yeah.
politics in there, man.
Yeah. And every day ain't promised in there.
It's for real.
So we can have a pot prisoner go in there and
sit there watching TV and
get killed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's sad. It really is.
What do you think, Craig, of the whole system and clemency? And
I think the first Trump administration got it right. We can't fix the wrongly incarcerated people with clemency. We fix the odd, cases with clemency. But here we're sitting right now, about a mile away from the Capitol building, where they made a law that says that if somebody rapes a child to sell the films, they get about a 2-year sentence. But yet, if we provide marijuana to a consenting adult, we get a life sentence. That's where the problem needs to be fixed. From those people that make those laws, there was a time, not 30 years ago, that the maximum penalty for marijuana was 5 years in the federal system. Why did they do away with that? Did marijuana go away as a result?
No.
Did people, did it change the world to raise the sentence from being a maximum of 5 to a maximum of life? What changed in the world? What got better? Nothing. The taxpayers are now paying for 150,000 people in federal prison, where back then there was about 30,000 people in federal prison.
It's a business.
So, where this needs to be fixed is unfortunately not in the clemency system, where politics and who you know and all that gets you released. Because unfortunately, we all had, at least in some way, shape, or form, the right political connection to get released. The people we left behind, unfortunately, don't yet have that connection.
so with that said, you think that there's cases the same exact as your cases in there and you just got the luck of the draw?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cases in there that are even more benign, even smaller than ours, and they're serving life sentences.
As a matter of fact, my man Parker, I was there. I was in Beaumont with Parker. And this might sound weird. Parker got 60 years. And I was thinking maybe that's part of the reason I got out, because life sentence looked maybe worse than 60 years for weed.
Yeah, exactly. 720 months. No, I agree. There's something about a life sentence.
Life, right? Yeah. And Parker, man, is a good dude, man. He don't even look like he belong there. I can't say that for myself. But, just like he said, it's more people that you would think more deserving, but I'm happy I'm out. But
so you don't think you think there's cases you think there's cases worse than yours, like Parker, that are more deserving that should be let out?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I know for a fact, someone like Parker get out of there, me and never get in no trouble again.
Never get in trouble again.
Never.
All right, with that said, I'm going to the last question. We're going to wrap this up. President Trump gave you freedom. Knowing that he gave you freedom, what would you say to President Trump if he was listening to you today?
President Trump, we are your example of a victory. And this describes other clemency recipients in the room, other former prisoners in the room who did go to prison for marijuana and are out in society living a good life, being good neighbors, being good Americans. He gave us that opportunity. He believed in us, and I told you that was the exact words that Ivanka herself told me, that we believe that you're going to be a good, productive part of society. President Trump, we're here to prove you were right. And as we were just discussing, we can go down. I have a list of over 200 names on it of people in federal prison that many of them, especially the lifers. I look at Gabriel Cisneros, been in prison as a first-time marijuana offender since he was 26 years old. He's 59 years old now.
Oh.
Why is he still in prison? If you let him out tomorrow, his family is still supportive. His life is still on the street. He deserves clemency at least as much as we did. And we're the example that if you let us out and we can thrive as we have, I'll bet the people we left behind will thrive as well if he provides relief to them.
Anthony, anything to President Trump when he gave you freedom when you had a life sentence for cannabis? What more maybe?
Yeah, I would like to thank him very much for taking me from the pits of hell in the United States, because that's what the prison system is, the pits of hell. And if I could say anything to him, I wish that he would free the rest of them, because they don't deserve to be in there.
You think Biden would have let you out?
No.
What do you have to say to President Trump, if you could say anything to President
Say the
Trump?
same thing Tony said, man. I'd like to thank him too. Wish I could meet him in person and truly say that I love him, man, because he literally saved my life. Because if it hadn't been for him, I would be still there.
You didn't believe your lawyer when he said Biden might let you out?
No. No. And it seemed like my intuition was right, bro. He didn't let anybody out.
You guys came a long way. You're very, very special people in America. You guys are American heroes. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Should be done in every high school in America. Bags.
All right, good job.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Go.
I've got some t-shirts here.
Oh, yeah.
This is all I can print. You guys.
Oh, I want another veteran shirt.
Got all sorts of t-shirts. They never done time. We can go through these. I don't know what size they have the different things on it.
Oh.
You got an email. Oh.